Well, this is actually surprising. Sony has taken accountability for how they've handled the PS5 pre-order process, apologizing to fans, but also assuring people that more consoles will be made available in the coming days. We're going to be talking about some of the tips and strategies you need to employ to try and secure a console if you haven't gotten one just yet. Also, we have real-life pictures of the PS5 showing up online from the FCC site. Great to finally see this thing kind of in person, right? We've seen nothing but product shots and promo video, things like that. So we have some real pictures to go over. And then we have some PS5 game install sizes. These are also some numbers we were looking forward to. Not super revealing, but still fun to take a look at. So over on Twitter, the official PlayStation account actually acknowledged this, which is really out of character for their social media team. They don't often acknowledge issues like this, but the tweet does say, "Let's be honest, PS5 pre-orders could have been a lot smoother. We truly apologize for that. Over the next few days, we will release more PS5 consoles for pre-order, retailers will share more details, and more PS5s will be available through the end of the year." So even without this tweet from PlayStation, we knew that there would be more consoles to go around, just that it's going to be a moment's notice, it's going to be a frenzy, and it's going to be tough to secure a console because clearly demand is high. Now the tweet does specifically mention retailers will share more details. So this is something that won't be directly from Sony. They can just dictate to retailers, hey, you need to make sure that this is how you approach this moving forward when we give you more allocation. So this pretty much tells us that retailers will let you know when there's going to be another reopening for pre-orders, which is good and bad. The only silver lining to how this really went down on Wednesday was that it seems like a lot of people had a good chance of actually getting these machines versus bots, right? That is a serious concern. We just saw the RTX get slammed with bots, and so that was also very frustrating for those customers trying to secure that as well. It's an unfortunate reality. Scalpers are a thing that we do have to worry about here, and so when there is notice of a specific time from a specific retailer, and depending on their site and how they handle online orders, they could get hit very easily, and the consoles could be gone within 20 to 30 seconds, which is quick, right? Very fast, which is why we have to think about what are the best ways to approach this if you do still want to get a console, if you're adamant about getting one on day one. Here are some of the things that you really need to consider and look at. If you haven't done this already, sign up for Target, Amazon, Best Buy, Walmart, GameStop, whatever country you're in, your local retailers. If they have online fulfillment, you would know better than I do, but sign up for all these websites. Have your accounts ready to go. Put in that credit card information, your billing address, shipping address. You want to make sure this is all ready to go. Make sure that they're auto signed in. You probably are going to want to do this from desktop at all times. If they have mobile apps, again, make sure that you're signed in. You have a good internet connection for things like that. I know it's also a huge deal if you are concerned about when you're charged. Most of these businesses do not charge you until the product ships. Some of them will do a temporary hold on your credit card or your debit card. And if it's a debit card, that's going to be a huge issue, of course. But make sure you have the available funds or credit line, regardless of where you shop, because again, you want to make sure you have all your options open to you. So that's why you should have accounts ready to go for any major store, fulfillment center, whatever's around you. Make sure you have that. Now, since it seems like retailers are probably going to give notice, this might not be super necessary, but still one I highly encourage. Make a Twitter account, follow Wario64 on Twitter. This is what I mentioned yesterday if some of you didn't catch this. This account will post a lot of deals that are coming up for certain products, games, things like that, but he's also very vigilant on posting these PlayStation 5 pre-orders. So the ones that went up at a moment's notice, this was how a lot of people got these consoles. I'm trying to share some of these links as well, but I'm not going to be as reliable. So Wario64 definitely. Also Cheap Ass Gamer is a great source for this as well. Also, I'm not sure what your preference is here, but I highly encourage you to go for a disc-based PS5 over a digital console. What we saw during this initial batch from GameStop stores actually is that they were allocated a handful of digital consoles versus about a dozen, possibly 24 disc-based machines, and that is dependent on the store, of course, and how large of a store it might be, but the initial reports that we're hearing is that there's way more disc consoles to go around versus digital machines, and I was there to survey most of the sites on Wednesday as they went up, and even some that might have creeped into Thursday morning a little bit, but essentially digital consoles went out first every single time. This is not so much that there's higher demand for it, there are less digital consoles to go around versus disc. So when pre-orders go up again, in my opinion, don't even humor the idea of trying to check out with a digital console, because you might be halfway through the process, and again, this is mere seconds we're talking about here. The checkout process won't go through. By the time you have to go back and say, all right, I'll spend the extra $100, I'll get a disc console, that might be gone as well, right? We're not working with much time here. So honestly, if you are there right when an order goes up, try to check out with a disc console. I think that's probably going to be your best shot, because it seems very clear that if you go through the process with a digital machine, it might not work out. And then finally, one of the big ones here is some retailers do this, not all. GameStop specifically will do this, but they'll offer retailer bundles that include many things alongside the console. So you're going to be spending more money, but it's something that guarantees you a better shot. These usually go out last compared to just the machines. And so a retailer bundle will be the console, but also maybe a PSN card, a controller, a handful of games, something like that. This, of course, goes into $700, $800 something dollars. You might be forced to buy accessories and games that you might not want. But again, if you really want to buy this console on day one, I suggest that you try to look for a retailer that offers these larger bundles and just immediately go for one of those right away. You'll have a decent amount of time to grab these before the other machines. And if you do get stuck with some products that you don't want, I think actually you can return certain parts of these once you get them actually shipped to you, right? Because they are still technically separate products. This is not some baked in one product code. They're all still separate. You'll pay the regular MSRP of all these things if you bought them separately somewhere else. So I think you can return the ones you don't want, but even if you can't, you can sell them for what they're worth, possibly more, because this is going to be a hot console. There's high demand, so I wouldn't really worry too much about that. If you have the available funds, go for a very, very expensive retailer-made bundle. That is also a good chance to get a console as well. And finally, a lot of people have been asking me this, but what about day one? Can I just walk into a store, or naturally you're going to be lining up, but can I buy one that way? And quite honestly, from what we've seen in previous generations, this is an option. There is small allocations depending on the store for just walk-ins. They're not allowed to be pre-ordered ahead of time, so normally you could do that if you line up very early. Although, one, this is highly dependent on the retailer. If it's a huge big box store, that will get a lot of consoles. And two, the coronavirus. This is 2020, it's much different. So I think big stores will want to discourage lineups, even though no matter what, it's going to happen for the people that want to show up and pick up their consoles that they have ordered. So depends, they might want to discourage that behavior, and maybe they will let all their consoles be pre-ordered and not have that extra allocation. But normally we have seen this in the past. This is a risky thing to do, and honestly it's a health concern at this point, so I really wouldn't say that's your best shot or really an option that you should be considering. Try to order a console online at all costs. Now, moving on to our first real-life pictures of PlayStation 5. These were recently published by the FCC, and so it's great to see the real console, not just those product shots or that one candid photo of somebody holding the console up. We actually have some close-up shots here, and I don't know if this really changes your opinion if you didn't like the overall design of the box. If anything, it probably encourages you to not like it more. But I still think it's the most visually striking box that Sony has made so far. My only concern is still those incredible overhangs from the upper and bottom clamshell-like design of this thing. It's more prominent in these real-life photos. I'm telling you, the aftermarket of this thing is going to look so ugly. Those are going to break off so easily, probably. Or possibly in transit. I don't know. I mean, hopefully it's durable plastic, but they just look so... they hang over way too much. But what we do see is the little stand there. So like we mentioned yesterday, this is included for every single console, which is good. It's pretty much necessary for a vertical or horizontal orientation. And you can see that little overhang there. That's actually for the horizontal position. So you can see that clips on the bottom portion of the machine, just to give it a little more security. And of course, if you're placing it vertically, you can see that there's kind of a snap-in like method there as well. Nothing else super revealing though. There's no direct indication of where an expandable M2 drive would go, although this happened for every single PlayStation 3 model where everybody's like, where does the HDD go? Where does the HDD go? And sure enough, it's always some kind of cool little clever hidden spot there. They always find a good way to hide it, and so it's not exactly obvious as to where it goes, but they'll clear that up very soon. Honestly, what caught me off guard more than anything else is that it looks like PS5 uses the standard figure 8 power cable that Sony uses for most of their PlayStation consoles. There's only a few that don't, like the Slim PS2 or the Fat PS3, the first run of PS4 Pros, but even later revisions of those machines went to the standard figure 8 once they lowered the power consumption. So it's great to see that you may very well already have a PlayStation 5 power cable. You can take those things and use them for so many PlayStation consoles. So that honestly was more surprising to me. Now, Sony's official PlayStation website recently updated for some of the product pages for their first-party games, and we learned about the install sizes for games like Demon's Souls. That's going to be 66 gigabytes. Spider-Man Miles Morales is 50, and then Spider-Man Miles Morales, the Ultimate Edition, that'll include the 2018 remastered game, will be 105 gigabytes, so they're just assuming that you're going to be installing both of those. But yeah, I mean, next-gen games are still going to be incredibly sizable. I know there was a conversation of perhaps these games will be smaller because you don't have to replicate assets. That's tough to even remotely say because these games are going to be using higher resolution assets. I mean, they're going to be larger. Naturally, just the scope of some of these games might be larger. So it's tough to say that game install sizes are going to be smaller, and there's no good way to even compare that really, because once we're out of cross-gen, I mean, we're just going to have next-gen games moving forward. So how can you reasonably say that they're smaller compared to previous gen games? The cross-gen stuff might be what we'd want to look at there, install sizes on PS4 versus PS5, but for the most part, you're still going to see fairly large installs, and it's going to be quite expensive to expand your storage. Anyway, that's it for now, though. As we get closer and closer to PS5, we will have more frequent uploads like this one just to cover some of these bigger stories. And good luck if you have not gotten a console just yet. I understand the frustration, but keep trying. There will be more opportunities, and I really hope you do get one moving forward. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't yet, please subscribe for the best PlayStation news, reviews, and updates that are here on YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter @MysticRyan, and that is it. I will see you all in my next video. You take it easy.